The first time I heard it, I was 12 years old and convinced the house was just the old radiator, coughing up its last breath. A low, wet rattle that rose through the floorboards of my bedroom around 2:17 a.m. every single night, like a broken watch that only worked when the rest of the world was asleep. My parents told me it was the pipes. My older brother Jake told me it was rats the size of house cats. But both of them refused to stand in the hallway with me when it happened, so I stopped asking. The sound always came from the locked room at the end of the upstairs hall. The one nobody talked about. The one with the chipped white door and the brass knob that never turned. No matter how hard you tried, Grandma Betty's room. She died in there 15 years before I was born, back when Mom was still in high school. Heart attack, they said. Dropped dead right on that faded blue rug while she was folding laundry. After the funeral, Grandpa nailed the door shut from the inside, walked out the window onto the roof, climbed down the oak tree like a man half his age, and never went back in. Then he drank himself to death in the garage within a year. Mom inherited the house and the room stayed locked, sealed, forgotten. Except it wasn't. Because whatever was in there never forgot us. I'm 31 now and I still can't sleep without headphones. I've lived in 6 different states, 3 different countries, and no matter how many miles I put between me and that house in Dayton, Ohio, I still hear it. That same wet, dragging gurgle, like someone trying to breathe through a throat full of mud. Only now I know what it really is. It's Betty, and she's still folding laundry. The night it went from weird house noise to holy shit, something is actually wrong here was the summer of 2007. I'd just turned 15. Jake was 17 and thought he was God's gift to every girl at Centerville High. And Mom was pulling double shifts at the hospital. Dad had bailed when I was 4, so it was pretty much just the 3 of us rattling around that creaky, Victorian-like marbles in a shoebox. Jake and I were home alone, arguing over whose turn it was to take out the trash when the power cut out. Whole block went dark. Typical Ohio thunderstorm, branches slapping the windows, wind screaming like it wanted inside. We lit candles, played cards by flickering light, laughed about how this was some real Blair Witch shit. Then the temperature dropped so fast our breath came out in clouds. Candles guttered. Cards scattered across the table like something had blown through the room, even though every window was shut. And that's when we heard it clear as day. Not through the floor this time. Right behind us. A slow, deliberate thump, thump, thump coming down the hallway upstairs. Bare feet on hardwood, heavy, wet. Like every step left something behind. Jake froze mid-laugh. I saw the color drain out of his face, the same way it was draining out of mine. We didn't say a word. We just stared at the darkness at the top of the stairs and listened as those footsteps reached the locked door, stopped, and then the knob rattled. Once, twice, hard. Jake grabbed the baseball bat from beside the fridge. I grabbed the biggest knife I could find. We crept up the stairs together, hearts hammering so loud I was sure whatever was up there could hear us coming. The rattling stopped the second our feet hit the landing. Dead silence. Just the storm raging outside and our own panicked breathing. The door looked exactly the same. Still nailed shut, still padlocked. Paint still chipped in that same weird smiley face pattern where the wood had warped. But now there was something new. A thin trail of water seeping out from under the door. Dark, almost black. Pooling on the hardwood, spreading toward our socks. Jake whispered, "We should call Mom." I whispered back, "And tell her what? That Grandma's room is crying?" He didn't have an answer for that. We backed down the stairs, locked ourselves in the downstairs bathroom with the bat and the knife, and waited for morning. When the power came back on at dawn, the water was gone. Floor was bone dry. No footprints. No sign anything had ever happened. We never told Mom, but after that night the rules changed. The sound wasn't random anymore. It had a schedule. 2:17 a.m. every night, the breathing started. Sometimes it was soft, almost like singing, an old hymn I half remembered, voice cracked and ruined. Other times it was screaming, not words, just raw animal pain that made your teeth ache. And every time without fail, the doorknob would rattle like something on the other side was testing how strong the nails still were. Jake started sleeping with his door barricaded. I started recording it on my flip phone, because if I was going crazy, I wanted proof. The audio was garbage, static, wind, my own terrified breathing. But if you turned the volume all the way up and listened through headphones, you could just make out a voice under the gurgle. Help me fold. I became obsessed. Spent hours on old message boards about haunted houses. Read every urban legend about Dayton. Dug through Mom's photo albums, looking for pictures of Betty. Found one from 1989, her standing in that exact room, smiling at the camera, arms full of tiny baby clothes. Mom's clothes from when she was an infant. On the back, in faded ink, someone had written Elizabeth's first laundry day with Grandma. Betty had been folding clothes the day she died. Mom found her slumped over the basket, still clutching a little pink onesie. I started talking back. First night, I just whispered through the door, "Grandma, is that you?" No answer. Then I got braver. Left notes slid under the door. "We're okay. You can rest now." Nothing. Then one night, after a particularly bad episode where the screaming went on, for 43 minutes straight, I lost it. Pressed my mouth right up to the gap under the door and yelled, "What the hell do you want?" The screaming stopped instantly, and something on the other side whispered back, clear as day, in a voice like wet leaves rubbing together, "Finish the laundry." That was the night Jake moved out. Packed his shit at 3 a.m., drove to his buddy's couch in Columbus, and never came back. Mom thought he'd just had another fight with her about college. She never knew he left because our dead grandmother asked him to do chores. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe because I was the youngest and the house felt like it had chosen me. Maybe because part of me wanted to understand. Or maybe I was just too terrified to leave, afraid she'd follow. The activity got worse. Doors in the rest of the house started opening and closing on their own. My clothes would be gone from the dryer and turn up neatly folded on my bed. Still warm, smelling like lavender and something metallic. I'd wake up with damp handprints on my sheets that weren't mine. And every time I passed the locked room, I'd feel this pull, like the air itself was thicker there, like the house was breathing through that door. Then came the night I found the key. It was hidden in the attic inside an old cookie tin full of Grandpa's war medals. A single brass key, small, skeleton style, covered in rust and something that flaked off like dried blood when I touched it. No tag, no note, just the key. I knew what it was for before I even reached the hallway. I stood in front of that door for an hour, key shaking in my hand, telling myself all the logical things. It's been nailed shut for decades. The lock's probably rusted solid. You're gonna look like an idiot. Just go to bed. But the breathing behind the door was louder than I'd ever heard, and ragged, desperate, like whatever was in there was drowning. I slid the key in. It turned smooth as butter. The padlock fell away. The nails popped out one by one, like invisible hands were pulling them from the other side. The door creaked open an inch, and the smell hit me, mildew, old perfume, and that same copper lavender rot that clung to my folded clothes. I pushed it the rest of the way open. The room was exactly like the old photos. Same blue rug, same iron bed with the white chenille spread, same rocking chair by the window, but everything was wet. The walls dripped. The ceiling sagged like it had been underwater for years. And in the middle of the floor sat a wicker laundry basket overflowing with tiny, rotted baby clothes, black with mold, still moving slightly like something inside was shifting. Betty stood beside it, not a ghost, Not transparent, solid, real, wearing the same floral house dress from the picture. Only now it clung to her like she'd been pulled out of a lake. Her skin was gray-green, bloated, eyes milky and sunken. Water poured steadily from her mouth, her nose, her ears, pooling around her bare feet. She was folding. One by one, she lifted the moldy onesies, the tiny socks, the little gowns with the ducks on them, and folded them with careful, loving precision. Her fingers left wet prints on the fabric. Every time she set a piece in the finished pile, it dissolved into black sludge. She didn't look at me until the basket was empty. Then her head rotated with a sickening crack, and those dead eyes locked on mine. "You came," she gurgled, water spilling over her bottom lip. "Good girl. Mommy's tired." I tried to back away, but my feet wouldn't move. Like the wet floor had turned to glue. She held out the last piece of clothing. A little white onesie, newer than the others, clean, my size 0, 3 months. Embroidered on the front in pink thread, Harper. My daughter's name. The daughter I lost at 22 weeks pregnant 2 years ago. The one we never got to bring home. Betty smiled, lips splitting, and whispered, "One more load. Then I can rest." I ran. Slammed the door, jammed the padlock back on, shoved the dresser from Mom's room against it. Slept in the car for a week. When I finally came back, the key was gone. The nails were back in the wood like they'd never been pulled. The door looked brand new. But the laundry kept coming. Every night, my clothes disappear from the dryer and reappear on my bed. Perfectly folded, soaking wet. Sometimes there's a new piece I've never seen before. A tiny sock. A bib that says Daddy's Girl. Things that don't exist in this timeline. Last week, I woke up to find the white onesie with Harper's name draped across my pillow. Still warm. Still dripping. And from the locked room, soft as a lullaby, I heard Betty singing. "Wash them clean. Fold them neat. Lay my baby down to sleep. I'm moving next month. New city, new state. New name, maybe. But I already know it won't matter. Because somewhere, in some house I haven't found yet, there's a locked room. And she's waiting with the basket. She always finishes the laundry, even if it takes forever. And some loads just won't come clean. The sound you're hearing right now, that wet gurgle in the background, that's her. She followed me into the booth. She's standing right behind me, folding. And she won't stop until every last piece is perfect. Even the ones that were never born. Sweet dreams, guys. If you wake up tonight and hear water dripping somewhere in your house, somewhere it shouldn't, don't go looking. Just pray your laundry is already done. Because Betty's real good at finding the ones who still have folding left to do. And once she starts a load, she never leaves it unfinished.